This is TWiT.
Apple has told Congress, in fact, they did this the day before, you'll hurt yourself if you try to fix your iPhone. This is from Motherboard. Apple testifying, actually it was their Vice President of Corporate Law, Kyle Andier, testifying before Congress over right to repair. Apple repeatedly denied accusations it was making it hard for people to repair their own phones and protecting a virtual repair monopoly. But as Motherboard points out, a lot of what Apple said just doesn't jibe. For instance, they said the phone is too technical for the average person to repair without special training, which, of course, Apple refuses to give them. That doing such repairs could be dangerous. That's not untrue. You put a battery in there wrong, it could be a problem. And that it costs Apple more money to do repairs than they charge. That might be a little bit of a fib. They claimed that they lose money on repairs. A number of third-party repair companies said, well, I don't know how that's possible. We charge less and make money. So how is Apple losing money? And the speculation is Apple's including the cost to numerous recalls in the money that they're losing.
Also, the little repair shop, the cost of employment for a small repair shop is going to be very different than Apple. When you talk about health insurance and all the other things, and probably a higher salary and so on and so forth, the people who are working there.
You think it really Apple loses money on repairs?
I don't know whether it does or not, but I can tell you that I look at the number that they're doing. I couldn't do it at that price. I couldn't manage that process at the price that Apple's doing it at. I mean, as someone who has to figure out how much things cost, when I think about the amount of time and the number of people that handle it, and how it comes out, they're not making a huge profit on it. If they're making any money on it, this isn't a profit center for Apple. I just really don't buy.
So you think
this is
that
all
when
about
Apple
Apple making
says
money.
We don't want third-party repair companies to repair our stuff, they're really saying it because it's unsafe for the
No, I think they're managing liability, because of the issue is that the chances of an average person being able to put their phone back together and have it work well is low. And no, I'm not talking about a techie person like us. We're saying an average person.
No, but the right to repair extends to third-party repair shops.
Right, exactly.
Right, okay, and I'm fine with that as long as the third-party repair shop registers that phone that we worked on this phone, and we take liability if anything goes wrong with this phone. Like, so Apple can give that to a third party as long as they. And
in fact, Apple has, and I should point out, just recently started giving training and parts to certain third parties, to approved third parties.
But I think that what's important is for every phone that third party works on, that serial number goes in as we worked on this phone. And this is what we did to this phone. So that when that phone catches fire,
the consumer knows that.
Yeah, but when the phone catches fire on a plane, no one's going to know. When you think about the PR impact of that, no one's going to know whether it was replaced or not. You know, no one knows whether somebody worked on it or someone worked. All they know is that an Apple product caught fire. And I am very sensitive to this because whatever happened to the 2015 laptop, I couldn't fly with it in Asia.
Think when Apple charges $549 to fix the glass back of an iPhone, that they're losing money? $549.
I don't know, because I don't know what it takes to do that. I don't know what kind of glass. I don't know whether it's there. I don't know.
All I know is that if I spend $1,000 for a phone, and the Apple's offering a replacement or a repair fee that is more than I think I want to spend, and someone says, "Hey, I can fix it for $60." It's my phone. I bought it. I own it. I should be able to pay this person $606. And remember that we're not talking about me in my office trying to fix like a component level repair on my own. We're usually talking about, here is a person who I FedEx my phone or my laptop or my iPad to them. They FedEx it back in a week or two. There's almost if you own like a really better example. I have a couple of typewriters that I actually use a lot, and so there's a typewriter repair shop in Arlington, Massachusetts, Cambridge Typewriter, that does an amazingly good job. They are experts. They've decided to become experts on fixing all kinds of typewriters.
But I think an iPhone.
But iPhones are exactly the same way. You can buy. There are YouTube channels of people who will do component level repairs and upgrades. Nintendo Switches. People who will there are parts that tend to fail, like the chip that's right near the charger. There are people who know how to replace just that discrete component, and they don't have to charge you for an entirely new board or an entirely new device. So I just think that if third parties are not artificially blocked from access to learning how to fix these things, and consumers are not artificially blocked from seeking repairs on a device that they own in whatever means that they want to engage in. I just think that that's okay. There's nothing. Well, it's good for consumers.
I think Apple is starting to roll out a system that third parties can actually do some repairs. I will say that I would never, ever have someone other than Apple work on my phone. like that is just crazy.
Well,
it is a crazy idea. It is stupid. It is a stupid idea.
It's not stupid.
Apple's managing not only liability, but the customer experience, right? They want everyone to be delighted using their iPhone throughout their time using that iPhone. And if you get some janky third-party repair that's doing something that Apple would not do, well, you might wind up with a repair that works for you, but isn't Apple's standard of here's what the iPhone experience should be, or the MacBook, or any experience.
It's just that there's so much.
We're consumers. We're not children. That's all I'm saying. We're not
I have
children.
To say,
if we want to
Alex
consume
has
risk,
a point that Apple would be blamed for that exploding iPhone, regardless of why it's exploding.
By stupid people, and they would be innocent.
Right.
That's not the consumer's problem.
Okay. If that repair shop is willing, if they register every phone that they work on.
That's basically what's going on with this independent. So Apple has independent repair program where when repair is needed, you can go to an independent repair provider. They've got Apple components. They have Apple training. They have Apple diagnostic tools. I'm pretty sure Apple did this in response to the right to repair movement. They felt like it was hurting them. That it was bad PR that they looked like they were blocking this. But I think this does jibe. I have to say, Alex, I'll give you some credit because this does jibe with your contention that Apple's not against you having third-party repairs, but they want to make sure that they're done safely and properly.
Yeah. We should not. The TSA is not making a big deal about batteries because they're not a big deal. Like they're not.
But
doing
airlines
something
are.
silly.
I got to tell you, I couldn't.
What I'm saying, all the airlines and TSA, the reason they're worried about that is high capacity batteries. Yeah. The batteries that we're doing as we get more and more time on a smaller and smaller space.
You've been on a plane. I've been on a plane recently where they say if you lose your phone in the seat, please
do not move it.
Do not move your seat. Call a flight attendant because they're afraid of people moving the seat, crushing the phone, and causing a fire.
And when I was in Asia a month ago, when I was in Cambodia and India, on every screen all the way down, it says you cannot take an
MacBook
Apple
Pro. Yeah.
MacBook Pro 2015 onto this flight. You can't check it. You can't carry it on. You
Cathay
can't.
Pacific said that.
And that is what I saw when I saw that. I was like, that is horrible PR. To have every airline across an entire airport have this huge LED wall that says you can't take your computer on. That's the kind of stuff and that's when it sunk in for me. That's what Apple doesn't want. Like Apple wants to make sure that whoever's tearing it apart and putting it back together isn't going to lead to that. And I don't think it has to do with money. I don't think this is some
problem,
kind of
though. Apple
conspiracy
and
theory.
Not just Apple, but every phone manufacturer put themselves in by making these sealed batteries in phones. Remember, for a long time, we could buy a phone that you pry the back off, put a new battery in. It was an easy thing. It wasn't even a repair. It was just a swap. I used to always buy extra batteries with my Samsung Galaxy phones because then I wouldn't have to worry about it running out of battery.
But if we want that size and we want it to be water resistant, we want all those
bigger.
other things.
Well, water resistance maybe. Okay.
I mean, like all of those things there's a lot we get by having it not.
It's also structural. I mean, like the Galaxy phones would squeak. I had a bunch of them. They would just squeak all the time because the case would.
But we're paying. I mean, there's a large price for the fact that these phones now are just landfill.
So the only thing I wanted to add is that Apple generally, like for these kinds of things, it's not usually about money. It's usually about control. They make so much money off the iPhone and other things that all the things like MFI and repairs. It costs them a fortune to repair MacBook keyboards, for example. Like that is a huge loss leader for them. But in general, they want the control over it. And one of the reasons is what Alex said. It's fear of litigation. But the right to repair, I think, is fundamental, but also the responsibility of repair. And I was once talking to a very famous repair person, and I was talking about, they get passcodes from all their from all the people who bring the phones in. And there have been several incidents of people repairing stuff who take off all the photos and show them to their friends and upload them. And they said, well, it's like going to the doctor's office. You drop your pants if you want the treatment. And I had to point out very politely that doctors go through rigorous training and licensing, and they have insurance, and there's all these things we do to protect consumers. And right now, as much as Right to Repair wants regulation, and in part, you have to acknowledge that a lot of these are for-profit repair centers. Like Apple may not make a lot of money, but that's a lot of money to the companies that are selling repair, especially online repair products and parts. But they're going to bring the responsibility that comes with it, and that's going to include privacy protections and protections against fire because these are not inert materials. These are very dangerous materials. I think that they should be licensed to go along with all the rights that they absolutely deserve to have.
Well said. You've changed my point of view.
No, I think we agree. It's just a responsibility. It's like Spider-Man, right?
Again, all I will say is that I'm a consumer. I'm not a child. I spent money for this laptop. Sometimes I spent $3,000 for this laptop. And this company is saying that I don't have the right to do a board level repair of a component that will cost me $300 or $400 to somebody that I choose to trust, as opposed to trying to do a $2,000 board level replacement or a $3,000 replacement. That is up to me. And if I'm going to take the risk of
trust, it's not up to you. You don't know who you can trust. There's all these companies that have set fire to people.
You know what?
People have died.
I don't want to start.
And that's not like you can trust it.
I do have to point out,
regulate everything.
People have died.
We regulate so many things, baby toys, and we regulate like the curtains on blinds. We do a lot of things to protect people from themselves, and we have not everything, but a certain degree. Like lithium-ion batteries need a certain level of regulation, and I think it's just like it's a responsibility that comes with repair.
I do have to point out
this is not like a baby seat.
I do have to point out
this is replacing a screen. This is replacing a battery.
It is worse than a baby seat.
I do have to point out that
I'll let
there
that
are
stand
laptops, Lenovo laptops, ThinkPads are quite famous for being very upgradable. You can upgrade.
Yep.
You can swap out the keyboard. You can swap out the battery. You can swap out the RAM. Lenovo doesn't suffer some sort of huge litigious risk by doing so. And people who want that can buy a Lenovo laptop.
And they should.
Unfortunately, Apple has a monopoly on iOS and Mac OS. So if you want iOS and Mac OS, you kind of have to do it the Apple way.
And I think
we see this all. This is a very
those
common.
Those are safer to swap and repair too. Like Lenovo makes them for you to do it.
Well, but maybe Apple should be doing that.
Well,
maybe totally.
Apple's 5% of the market. If you don't like the way that they run their business, you should get a PC.
Right.
You know, I mean, I'm just like it's not. They have a monopoly over.
No.
I mean,
I'm not.
I get it.
I'm just pointing out.
But I'm just saying that
consumers have a
choice about what they want to do. They're buying into a environment or not.
But this is
this is not a surprise.
This is a regular refrain from people who want to use iOS and Mac OS is Apple way or the highway, and doesn't mean we have to sit back and accept it. It's just the way it is. But
that's part of what makes iOS and Mac OS delightful to use is that it is Apple's way or the highway.
I don't know if it makes it delightful. Honestly, I don't think it makes it delightful.
Well, it's like Nintendo.
But it is the way it is, and
it's the way it is.
Your only choice is to do business with another company. It's why Hackintoshes exist, unfortunately. And I
think that the right to repair is a 1% issue. Like that's the issue. That's the problem. Is there's like 1%.
It isn't. I'll tell you why it's not. It's about landfill. It's about waste. It's about making a lot of devices like the AirPods that have no future except in a landfill. And I really
I've heard Apple address that.
Well, they need to address it more actively. And I think one way to do that is to say, okay, you can, we've got to give you a way to make these things repairable. Otherwise, they're just landfill fodder. In fact, one senator said, we don't need to have right to repair.
Yeah.
These are disposables. And that is the wrong attitude.
That happened in New Hampshire, as a matter of fact.
Yeah.
During legislation that was blocking that the actual quotas in the near future, cell phones are throwaways. Everyone will just get a new one.
Yeah. And I think that is an attitude we want to fight, because I don't think that is sustainable in this world for very much longer.
I don't think making
their argument.
I don't think that would greatly change.
Their argument is that
I think that's the issue.
Part of the reason that they fight so strongly for their beliefs around repair is that these things aren't responsibly disposed of. And when Apple and Apple licensed people are doing it, part of that licensing process is the way that they are disposed. They're not thrown in the garbage. They're not chucked in landfills. They're brought back and disposed of responsibly. You can choose not to believe that, of course, but that's their argument for.
Well, my argument is that when you look around on the subway and on buses and on the streets and you see people using a phone, any manufacturer, with a cracked screen, it's not because they dropped it and the screen cracked. They thought, you know what, I actually like it that way. That's unique and that's wonderful. There's a reason why they don't have that phone replaced or they don't have it repaired. It's because they can't afford it. And if there's a way to extend the life of that device to make sure that someone doesn't have to spend another $300 to replace a budget phone, or doesn't have to extend a contract another 2 years and avoid the ability to switch to a different contract if it will do better for them, I want consumers to have that right. And I want any artificial barrier to be removed. It's okay if Apple or any other company is saying, look, this is a MacBook Air. We can't use it, put it together with Phillips head screws and make everything, on little trays you can lift in and lift out. I get that. But when there are purely artificial, purely dogmatic, purely ideological reasons why you're not allowing someone who at one point laid out money to own something to not have control over that device and not do what they feel as functioning adults is the best thing to do for them to have that device working, that is wrong. That's just not something that a great company engages in.